Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the GothamChess Olympiad 2022. It's time for the final round of action. Today's round will determine which teams win gold, silver, and bronze, which teams were super close, but it was not meant to be. And also we will crown individual winners. So boards 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on will get a gold medal for their performances. We will highlight those at the end of today's video. I've enjoyed making these recaps for you tremendously. I'm sure you have enjoyed as well. It's a really unique format. I've had a fun time reading your comments. A lot of you actually wrote comments that you don't like my tank tops. You think they're unprofessional. You think it's loungewear. You think I gotta wear, more appropriate clothing. And I'm a serious guy, so I took your feedback in stride. I was reading through what you had to say, and starting tomorrow, I'm gonna continue wearing whatever it is that I want. It's none of your business. So let's jump into the games. We are going to start on the women's side of things. We have Georgia taking on Azerbaijan, and we have a couple of draws in this match. This is a gold medal match. We have a very imbalanced position already. It looks like you can play knight takes d5 in this position because of this pin, but the move queen a5 check here would be fatal for white. That's not what we want. So queen a4, queen b3, and a sacrifice of a pawn in order to counterattack in the center. A couple of moves later, we have a trade and we have knight f4, and these pawns are sort of sitting ducks, right? That's sort of the game plan here for white as Nino Batsishvili is going to try to break through and ultimately win back a little bit of material. But early on, it was black who got the better position from the opening. White now has to fight back a little bit. Knight b5 here played, bishop d6 played, and we have a trade and the knight takes on a7. The engine really likes this position for black. It thinks that the pawn structure is very solid, and it looked like Azerbaijan was off to a great start. Bishop e5, knight b5, we have bishop takes b2, and now f4. Very interesting move, preventing the bishop from going back to where it was. Knight g4, all right, bishop back to f6. I mean, so far, it has been all Azerbaijan. So what does Nino Batsishvili do? She begins to create confusion. She plays f5. Right? Tries to kind of get in here with the rook. On the one hand, if you play e5, there's knight c7 problems. On the other hand, if you do it this way to try to take like this, suddenly white is kind of creating a little bit of counterplay. And the pawns are now back to even. Black is still better, but the kind of problematic situation for white is no more. Black still has to keep marching forward, has to make room for this king, fight off this rook. But time trouble is approaching, right? It's the last 10 moves before the time control. And black is just playing a bunch of logical moves, it seems. But all of a sudden, the bishop, who's going to guard the bishop? Knight c4 is on the way. The bishop is pinned. And black sacrifices in order to try to queen. She queens successfully, but we have rook d1, king g2. And this position looks like it's just like we know what the conclusion of this game is going to be, right? 2 rooks and a pawn, knight and 3. It's probably going to be a draw. But white begins coordinating her army, and white just simply has more pieces, all right, if you just count them physically, right? White refuses a draw and just continues to pressure, and, I mean, it looks like we're just sort of absent-mindedly shuffling, but knight g5 comes in, and black has a problem because anywhere the king goes, there's problems, there's forks, there's mates, so black sacrifices the exchange, and this is a drawn endgame. All right, this is a drawn rook endgame, and white is just going to try to pose some practical problems, right? Black blunders the king infiltration. So now it looks like you're winning a pawn, but after this is a losing endgame. Because you are on the opposite side of where you have to defend against this pawn, right? When you have rook and pawn versus rook, you have to have certain defensive setups. Black doesn't have them here, and it takes over 80 moves. But the Georgian player gets the job done by getting to the famous build the bridge position. And the point is now that when the king escapes, the rook will shield, right? And so king f7, and the checks can be given here like this. But what's going to happen is ultimately the bridge will be built and the rook will come. And yeah, I mean, from bad to worse. And now Georgia beats Azerbaijan and is looking at everybody else. All right, Georgia is guaranteed a medal. What's going to happen in some of the other matches? Well, we have Ukraine versus Poland. This is also a gold medal match, all right? On board 1, Maria Muzyczuk plays e4. We have a French defense from Elena Kashlinskaya, who I believe is a GM. Like, not official yet, but I think she has all the norms. We have a Winauer. This is a very sharp line. Queen G7, Queen H7. This is all theory. All right, knight E2, knight C6. This has all been played before many, many, many times. It looks completely nuts. Don't touch this with a 10-foot pole, let alone a 20-foot pole. Knight D4, Queen D4. And black is basically just down a pawn, but is relying on superior dynamics. All right, white is up a pawn and is relying on the fact that they can just advance these pawns forward as long as the king stays safe, right? It's kind of difficult to develop here with white. So let's see what happens. Bishop D3. Queen D5, and white plays bishop to E3. So trying to get developed, not worried about this exchange, also not worried about rook takes G2, all right? Because the idea is takes. Now you give away this pawn, now you get the king to safety. So white goes from a couple of pawns up to no pawns up to now down a pawn, but still has a better position because in chucking away all of this and letting the queen wander over, look at the activity, the bishop, the queen, the rook. Black can't really develop here so solidly, has to play moves like bishop c6. But the problem with this is that now, not only do you have endgame liabilities, you also just have a very weak king, and that rook is going to struggle to move. Now, the engine here still likes the move a5, and it thinks the position is in the balance. Musachuk plays f5. She's trying to shred open the position. ef5, and now a cold-blooded move, king b1. Point is that you're trying to get off of all of the checks on this diagonal. The king will actually be more safe in the corner. Even though rook b8 looks possible, the king, like I said, is safe on a1. Completely safe. You're a move away from mate, but there's check here, check, and then you win the rook. And then you cover mate. And if the king goes out to for example, the king goes out to g7, you can't take the rook, but you can give a check with the rook. So we have king f8, all right? It's still very equal, but it's a wild game. And now queen e7. Queen e7 shows that the pawn structure is in total ruins, and white wants to play e6, which will be the last layer of defense removed. And again, if rook b8, king a1, queen c2, there's rook g1. A move before you mate me, I get to your king. So we have king a1, e6, and all of a sudden, the position is collapsing. It is the black king who was weak all along. Queen f5, unstoppable threats coming. Queen f8, the king is hunted out, and rather than walk of shaming this way and losing the queen or getting mated at ladder mate, black resigns. And this, along with a win on board 3 between Anna Ushanina and Olivia Kilbasa. You'll remember that name. Kilbasa suffers her first loss in the last round of the event, playing against the GM. Ukraine wins. Ukraine is now up there. And the final match that has to be decided is the match between India and USA. USA has had a rough event on the women's side, but they have a chance to play spoiler and maybe get the bronze medal. Okay? Couple of games were drawn. Tatev Abrahamyan on the last board for the United States, playing against Bhakti Kulkarni from India. We have a fried liver attack, kind of. Not there. I mean, technically this is the fried liver. But, you know, this is like knight g5 played. Crazy, right? This is all theory. Bishop b5, dc, bishop back to d3. Around here, I don't exactly know what's theory anymore and what's not. Like white playing all this crazy stuff. I think here knight h7 is a move to fork the queen and the bishop, but white goes here. And we get a more or less stable position around here. White plays b3 to play bishop b2. That's exactly what she does. And now black plays a move that looks completely absurd. Like, to me, this looks like a normal move. The point is that if you take it, rook b2, and black is very happy. But black plays rook b4 with the idea of attacking that. White just castles long. And then we have a trade, and a couple moves later, black castles. But it looks like white has won the opening battle. Why? Look at the white army. I mean, rook is very powerful. Queen is strong. Knights are ready to jump, and the bishops will open, and there's going to be threats. The black pieces are totally scattered, like family that never want to see each other except once a year. I mean, the bishop on c8 hasn't moved. The knight on a5, drunk and stumbling, right? So now it's up to white to kind of begin the attack. She plays knight a4, very logical move. Queen c3, hits the knight, hits the pawn on e5. Black plays bishop g5, creating a threat. White takes on e5, danger levels. Queen hanging, you want to win my queen, I'm going to hit your queen. Now I'm going to take your knight. You go here, I'm going to get the bishop, and I'm going to get the rook. You get a queen, but I get a rook, bishop, and the knight. When you play against the queen, you need as much material as possible, and you need a stable position. You need a lot of stuff defended, because that queen is a menace, all right? That queen can get in and all of a sudden win a bunch of stuff. So you'll notice in this position how Tatev, look at what she's doing, everything well coordinated, all right? H5, black trying to fight, fight everything off, but look at this, just protecting everything, all right? Knight E6 jumping into the territory. All right, we now have an exchange. Rook, knight, bishop remaining against that queen. They say it takes a village to raise a child. It takes a village to beat up a queen, all right? British folks, I don't mean that literally. King back to F1, rook G7, the pawns are falling, and this game ends in a wonderful way as this king dances over to safety, and it is actually the black king that gets walk of shamed into the corner of the board. Mate is unstoppable. You either have some sort of rook mate discovery or you have knight f7, and Tatev wins on board 4 for white for USA, combined with a win by Carissa Yip over Tanya Sajdev on board 3. Carissa, huge win. She struggled earlier in the event, and Tanya has had a lights out event, and she loses in the final round. USA plays the role of spoiler. They actually tie so close for a bronze medal, but India survives. And the top 3 finishers on the women's side, Ukraine the champions, Georgia getting the silver medal, and it is India getting the bronze. Very close fight it was by the United States, but unfortunately just a little bit slow on the tie breaks. Yeah, they are the gold medal champions. We will talk about medals, I guess, after, or I can tell you now. Board 1 was Pia Kramling, best result. Now, Sweden did play a couple of rounds down, but Pia on board 1 had the best score, so massive congratulations to Pia Kramling. Board 2 was Nino Batsisvili. You just saw her game. Board 3, Olivia Kilbasa. Board 4 was Bat Erdene Mungunzul from Mongolia. And board 5 was Jana Schneider, who was kind of, it seemed like a substitute player, but she was playing, I mean, it wasn't much of a, I don't know why she's considered board 5. There is no board 5, but she's like the alternate, but she still scored like a massive score. The women's grandmaster from Germany, I believe. All right, folks, it is time. It is time for the gold medal matches in the open section. India B yesterday suffered a crazy razor-thin split decision with Uzbekistan. We will see if they are able to bounce back today. They are playing Germany, all right? They are the lowest scoring of the top 3, so they got to get a win. And Nihal Sarin shows up and plays the London against Matthias Blubaum. We have a very imbalanced pawn structure in the London. We saw Magnus play like this recently. Knight 2f3, and this is the pawn structure early on. Black has an isolated pawn. White has a very stable structure. White is going to play here, here, and basically see what black does. When you play against an isolated pawn, you need to remove a couple of things from the position, and then maybe it will become a weakness. You also can rely on superior play around the pawn. So we have rook e8, queen d2. Here comes one rook. Okay, Nihal chooses to double on the e-file, also reasonable. Knight e5. And again, when you play against an isolated pawn, if something like this happens, white is actually quite happy, because this bishop sucks. And actually, it is white who is going to dominate, you know, maybe the center and hitting this pawn. So Nihal's not worried about trading the bishop, right? He does move it back, but he really does that to potentially go here in the future and have a target over here on d5. So slowly but surely improving the position. And now this is a very provocative move by, this is a very provocative sequence here by Blubaum, who gets hit and gets hit again and has to go back to f8. And Nihal just jumps in, and that pawn on d5 looking very delicate and gets taken. Now, sometimes black will give that pawn up to try to create counterplay, which you see here, but at the end of the day, Nihal's just up a pawn. He has 6. His opponent has 5, so he is much better. He just needs to consolidate, and here we go. If bishop takes d5 in this position, you have this, rook c7, but black could come back. I mean, the game's not over. So the counterplay does pay off in the end, all right? I mean, black did a nice job here. White had to be a little bit more accurate, and Blubaum's a genius. I mean, b5, undermining the defense of the knight. Nihal fights back. Knight c4, knight c7, hitting the bishop, and we have knight b5. So Nihal still up a pawn. All right, now black defended inaccurately. The players rush to the 40th move, and we have a rook and knight endgame. All right, which quickly becomes a rook endgame where despite it being even in pawns, this is not the same quality of pawns, and this is not the same quality of kings. One of these kings is a progressive husband. All right. He's helping with the kids. He's helping around the house. You know, he's a boss. All right. He's a Chad. All right. He's getting involved as well. All right. Doesn't believe in any of the patriarchy. He's gonna go handle what he's got to do. All right. There's no queen, no problem. All right. He's gonna take on b5. A pawn is gonna promote. B pawn is gonna promote. This is a king that takes the matter into his own hands. This is a king that sits back. He's like, y'all do everything. All right. I'm the king. All right. And that king is gonna walk up to that b pawn. And even though Matthias is creating counterplay, a4. Now, of course, in this position, you do not want to trade rooks if you're playing white, and you do not want to allow g2. So, rook c1, rook g1, and that a-pawn's going. And it takes 55 moves. And in this position, Matthias Bluebaum resigns because you can play rook a6. Sorry, you can play rook over here, but I'm going to go here, and I'm going to play b5, b6, b7, and I'm just going to win. There's absolutely nothing that can be done. This combined with a win on the fourth board by Raunik Sadwani, who played a very interesting game. He had a very big attack from an early Caro Kann position. He sacrificed the pawn against Nisipianu, and he opened up the position, won the pawn back, started hunting the king. It took him a while to convert his advantage, and Black did fight back, but I mean, just look at that king on g8, right? That king was just hunted the whole game. Now, it was in the balance, but it really seemed like from the beginning, it was only white who was putting... Look at this position. Just, like, look at this. I mean, it looked like just from the first, 8 moves of the game, it was all Raunik Sadwani, and he applied the pressure. He never took his foot off the gas. By the way, if you're driving, you absolutely should take your foot off the gas. My lawyers told me to tell you that. I can't just say never take your foot off the gas. He ended up winning queen versus rook position. Black unable to break through, and... the reason, actually, it's kind of surprising. Why did Black resign? It's because the king is getting opened. Remember that game in the women's section between Muzychuk and Koshlinskaya? It's the fact that in this position, the white rook can't move, but if you open up the king, the white rook can move. So this move f5 seals the deal. India B wins. All eyes are on Armenia and Uzbekistan. The match between Spain and Armenia, and by the way, they're not playing each other, like India's not playing Uzbekistan or whatever, or Armenia, because they all played each other already. All the top teams have basically played each other. They have to look at the lower seeds. Armenia drew every round, every game against Spain. It really came down to board 1, Sargsyan versus Shirov. We have a queen b3 Slav. Takes, bishop g4. And from an early position, Shirov just took on f3, just gave up the bishop pair, slightly damaging white's pawn structure, and put his knight on d5, and the bishop went back to d2. Now, what does white want? Well, white wants e4, followed by castling, maybe queenside, maybe kingside, maybe keeping the king in the middle, and then using those bishops, right? Like, imagine a bishop in a perfect world on h3. It's going to stand completely unopposed, right? e4, more center space. So very provocative play here from Shirov. We have e4, knight back to c7, and long castles indeed. Both sides actually long castles. Queen back to d2. Who is going to cover bishop g5? Right, bishop g5 is a threat. Now, if black plays the move h6 here, for example, white is going out to a5, okay? And then there's going to be an attack on this side. If black plays the move bishop e7, preventing bishop g5, there's going to always be various rook g1s, but there's also this problem. Still, though, bishop g5 is a fork, so rook d7 is a possibility, right? Or maybe preemptively playing something like queen h5 could be an option. But Shirov plays the move g6. The idea of g6 is that after bishop g5, queen h5, you cannot take the rook because of this. That is his idea, okay? But white goes bishop e2, and the game is over. Black's queen is going to get trapped. I don't know what happened here exactly, but by creating the attack on the queen, now Shirov has to lose the rook because he's unable to defend the rook anymore because f4. And that's it. The queen's just trapped. It's crazy. So after like 18 moves, white is just up in exchange. White's just up in exchange, and then he just trades rooks. He gives a check, and he just has to win this position. It's +3. What? I mean, I know you want me to keep this dramatic. I know you guys enjoy my comments. There's nothing I can do here. I mean, white is just up in exchange. Now, to his credit, Shirov does fight back a little bit. I mean, with an engine draw this with black, maybe against the human, because the engine would defend perfectly. You know, Sargsyan just brings his king, what you're supposed to do in the endgame, continues to create threats, targets the weaknesses, all right, defends his own weaknesses, creates a center pawn wedge, and just slowly but surely it just goes forward, right? I mean, like, no resistance at all. Crazy. Just like a shocking, I guess, just a shocking sequence of events there, and he just wins effortlessly. And Armenia now is in gold medal position. They just need to look at the other match between Uzbekistan and the Netherlands. So that match had 3 draws as well. Nodirbek drew Giri. It was Bog drawing... I think Bach was playing the board 3, which is Sindarov. The board 2, Van Forez drew the other Nodirbek, Yakuboyev. So it comes down to board 4. It comes down to board 4. If Max Varmerdam wins this game, the Netherlands make a run at the bronze. Uzbekistan is no longer in potential contention for a medal. If Jahangir Vakhidov manages to defeat Max Varmerdam with black, Uzbekistan are the gold medalists. They win. Here we go. We have a Sicilian defense. We have a Rossalimo. You cannot get a more imbalanced Sicilian if you tried. C3, not taking the knight. D4, takes E5 first and then takes. And we didn't get another trade until the D pawn was traded off. So white has an isolated pawn position, but white has a lot of pressure. White has potential open file. White has the ability to hit the queen, right? So he plays D5. Knight goes out. Bishop gets defended by the queen. Now, this decision to give up the bishop and get hit with the move b5 probably did not come lightly. I imagine that something like queen h4 was maybe the original idea, or something like queen e4, right, to create an attack on the e7 pawn. Vakhidov plays rook e8, just very simple move defending his position, hits the queen out this way, and now is like, what if I play b4? Attacking that knight. Knight's got to move, right? Position looks good, but just a very calm decision here by black. Takes the knight, takes a free pawn. Like, you're really just gonna leave that pawn hanging, bro? This is the gold medal game. Okay, Varmerdam plays rook e1. Bishop attacks the rook, rook goes back. Now black says, I don't need this bishop guarding my king. I'm gonna guard my king with the spiky pawns, all right? Good luck attacking me. Now, here, you can play something like bishop h6. Instead of that, Varmerdam plays queen h4. It's a very flashy move. If you take the bishop, then I play knight takes g5, and there's this, right? Black could defend himself with h5, but it's a little bit dangerous. So instead of that, he just takes a second pawn. You giving me 2 free pawns? I'm gonna take 2 free pawns. Rook d3, e6. I'm just taking free pawns and playing defense. Okay, you take on f6. That's a good move. I can't take, right? I get it. But I have this, queen f6, and now I'm gonna lose my queen for this, right? Right? Desperado. I'm gonna lose my queen anyway. Queen takes h2 with check. So you have to take, and now I'm gonna lose my queen anyway, so I win a pawn for it first. Black is up 2 pawns. Black's just up 2 pawns in an endgame. Could it be true? Could this actually be happening right now? Varmerdam goes all in. All right, he's creating counterplay. He's down 3 pawns, but he's trying to get some counterplay against the king. And black is making it so that any bit of counterplay, like a pawn, it will cost you a rook trade. You cannot trade too many pieces. It's rook and 4 versus rook and 2. Vakhidov swarms. He gives up the a pawn here to win the g pawn, but at the end of the day, black just has 2 extra pawns. Would Stockfish defend this with white? Honestly, very maybe. Just because black is a little bit passive. But Varmerdam is a human, he's not Stockfish. And once that black king gets moving and is unable to be held down, it takes a little while. To count, it takes 60 moves, but consistent progress is made. That's it. It's just a runaway pawn, and the king escapes. The g pawn is queening. Uzbekistan are the gold medalist champions of the Olympiad 2022. Incredible. Completely incredible stuff. Massive congratulations to the team. And before we announce gold medal winners, I just want to highlight one more incredible result from the Olympiad. India Team A, so the main team, played against the United States. Arjun Erigaisi defeated Lenier Dominguez Perez But on board 4, it was Shanklin beating SL Narayanan. And this game, I mean, again, this is not, it doesn't have medal implications, but Eri Gaisi got a very nice position from an early Nimso, a passive Nimso played by Linier, and then they traded everything into an endgame of just knights and bishops, and Arjun just played this position like a machine. I mean, he just very methodically expanded forward. Look at this. Not even taking back, trying to play c5. He pushed his 2750 rated opponent all the way back to the back rank and just marched forward like the Terminator and just, I mean, left his pawns on the king side to perish, got to c6, and just won the game effortlessly. He now breaks 2700. So India has another 2700 Super GM. Congratulations to him. Neither these teams fought to a draw, so neither of them won a medal. We have this matchup. This matchup between England and Moldova is special. It was a Peer's defense played by Black. This is the board 2 matchup. Luke McShane for England was putting the pressure on the Moldovan board 2. Moldova has had a very nice run in this event, but it's due to come to an end because they're playing a team that's average rated like 2650. And, you know, we're just going to celebrate their efforts, right? White was up a pawn for the majority of this game, just clearly better, +2 position. Hamitovici looked like, you know, he was going to succumb to the better player. And then he just started firing. G4, GF3, ripping open the position, and by the time control, the position was balanced. White had to find only moves to defend himself. And by playing Rook F1, suffered, boom, D3. The point of D3 is that if you take this pawn with anything, Rook G3 comes in. If you take this Rook F1 and it's mating problems with Knight G4 and Queen G1. So you can't take the pawn. You have to play Rook E3. The pawn sneaks through. C1 Queen. Oh my goodness. And from the absolute depths of hell, Queen E4 check. If you take, it's mate. It's like 4 brilliant moves in a row out of nowhere by the Grandmaster from Moldova, and Black just has 2 queens, constantly sacrificing one for the threat of mate. Queen C2, Queen B2, they line up, the king walks out of the corner, the rook sacrifices because Queen H2 is mate, and from the absolute depths of a loss emerges Vladimir Hamitovici, and Moldova beats England. Moldova finishes in a tie for like 4th place. Moldova doesn't have a single 2500. What? Led by my former opponent, Ivan Skitko, right, who just drew Magnus yesterday. This is unreal. Shout out to Moldova, who tied with the US and India for that spot right after the medalists. What? That is nuts. Moldova, stand up. All Moldovans should be proud of that team effort. Unbelievable. Just absolutely unreal. I'm hype. I am hype, y'all. All right. The medalists for the open section. Gukesh for board 1 wins the gold medal. Board 2, Nihal Sarin. Board 3, David Howell. Mammoth performance by him. He got like 90% win rate. Board 4, very own Jahangir Vahidov. And board 5 was the Polish player Mateusz Bartel, who I suppose was, I guess, an alternate. He wasn't in the starting lineup, so to say. Folks, that concludes the Olympic run. Congratulations to Uzbekistan. They now have the World Rapid Champion, and they have an Olympic gold medalist. An incredible performance by him. And yeah, wow. This is going to be a little bit of a downer now because we don't have a big chess event for a very long time. We have some online events, but I hope you enjoyed the coverage as always, and yeah, not much else to say. I will see you tomorrow for regularly scheduled programming here on the Gotham Chess YouTube channel. This was tremendous fun, and yeah, I really like making these recaps for you, and your energy gets me pumped. Get out of here.